If you have no money, you do not have freedom. You have permission disguised as independence. You may call yourself free because no one is physically stopping you. But if one missed paycheck can break you, if one emergency can humiliate you, if one boss can threaten your oxygen, if one client can control your mood, if one bill can make you abandon your standards, then you are not free. You are rented. And the rent is paid in obedience. But here is the question most men avoid. Why does society keep telling broke men that poverty is noble? There is a hidden mechanism behind it. If you can convince a man that wanting money is greed, you can keep him easy to command. If you can shame him for wanting leverage, you can keep him emotionally dependent. If you can make him romanticize struggle, you can keep him trapped inside it. And if you do not understand this, the cost is brutal. You lose time, you lose options, you lose bargaining power, you lose the ability to walk away, you lose respect from people who only understand strength. You lose years of your life accepting situations you secretly hate because you cannot afford to leave. That is why money matters. Not because money is happiness. Money is not happiness. Money is distance from obedience. And that is the first harsh truth. Truth 1. Money is not happiness. It is distance from obedience. A poor man often has to ask for permission. Permission to rest. Permission to say no. Permission to leave disrespect without begging his bank account for approval. Permission to take a risk. Permission to protect his time. Permission to build. Permission to stop explaining his standards to people who benefit from his weakness. He may not call it permission. He may call it responsibility. He may call it being realistic. He may call it having no choice. But no choice is the language of men without financial oxygen. This is why cash matters. Cash is not only money in an account. Cash is mental territory reclaimed. Cash is the difference between reacting and deciding. Cash is the quiet wall between your ambition and someone else's emergency. A man with no cash is always negotiating from weakness. He may speak loudly, but inside he is calculating fear. He may act calm, but one unexpected bill can steal his posture. He may say he is independent, but his independence ends the moment pressure appears. This is how poverty changes a man. It does not only limit what he can buy, it trains what he believes he deserves. It teaches him to accept disrespect because leaving is expensive. It teaches him to delay his own future because survival is urgent. It teaches him to shrink his standards until he calls weakness maturity. Cash reserves create calm. Without calm, strategy collapses. A man in panic cannot think clearly. He cannot negotiate cleanly. He cannot study deeply. He cannot build patiently. He cannot choose wisely. He chases relief instead of power. And when a man is desperate, everyone can smell it. The boss can smell it. The client can smell it. The family member who always needs something can smell it. The world may not say it directly, but it knows when you cannot walk away. That is the first cold payoff. Money does not make you free by magic. Money gives you enough distance to stop reacting like a captive. The old belief dies here. The old belief says, I do not need money. I just need to be a good man. The stronger belief says, a good man with no leverage is still easy to control. And once you understand that, the next question becomes more dangerous. If money creates distance from obedience, why do so many men still act like suffering should be enough? Because they were trained to confuse effort with value. Truth 2. Your boss respects replaceability, not suffering. Your boss may like you. Your co-workers may respect you. Your company may praise you. But if your value is easy to replace, your suffering does not protect you. The workplace does not reward how much your life hurts. It rewards leverage. Can you create rare value? Can you solve painful problems? Can you bring in money? Can you reduce risk? Can you move faster than others? Can you do what is hard to replace? If not, your pain is irrelevant. This is where many men wake up too late. They think loyalty will save them. They think long hours will save them. They think being reliable will save them. These things matter, but they are not enough if they do not become leverage. A man can suffer for years and still be replaced in one meeting. That is not cruelty. That is structure. The market does not ask, "Did this man try hard?" It asks, "What can this man produce that is difficult to ignore?" Hard work is respected only when it becomes output. Output is respected only when it solves a problem. Solving problems is respected only when it affects money, speed, risk, status, or survival. This is why unsupported men cannot afford to worship effort. Effort is the tax you pay to enter the game. Leverage is what gives you a position inside it. If you are working hard but building no skill, you are renting your body to someone else's system. If you are loyal but gaining no bargaining power, you are mistaking patience for strategy. If you are suffering quietly, hoping someone notices, you are asking the world to reward invisible pain. The world does not reward invisible pain. It rewards proof. Skill creates earning power. Proof creates bargaining power. Money creates breathing room. Assets create distance from desperation. So do not ask, "Am I tired?" Ask, "Am I becoming harder to replace?" Do not ask, "Do they appreciate me?" Ask, "Do I have enough leverage to leave if they do not?" Do not ask, "How much have I sacrificed?" Ask, "What has my sacrifice built?" The identity shift is simple. Stop seeing yourself as a worker waiting to be recognized. Start seeing yourself as an operator building bargaining power. A worker hopes the system is fair. An operator studies what the system rewards. A worker wants sympathy. An operator wants leverage. A worker says, "Look how much I endured." An operator says, "Look what I can produce under pressure." If you are serious about becoming the kind of man who is not easy to control, and you are tired of watching endless videos without turning knowledge into command, join the Patreon. Inside, I go deeper into the unfiltered frameworks behind money, power, discipline, and psychological leverage. If you keep consuming without building, you will stay informed but unchanged. The decision is yours. And if suffering does not protect you at work, does it protect you socially? No. Truth 3. Poverty exposes who only respected your usefulness. When you have no money, you learn very quickly who respected you and who merely benefited from you. Some people love your availability when you are broke, because broke men are easier to access, easier to guilt, easier to pressure, easier to interrupt, easier to drag into low-value routines, easier to use as emotional labor, backup labor, free labor, or convenient company. They may call it love. They may call it loyalty. They may say, "You changed." But sometimes when people say you changed, what they mean is you stopped being easy to use. When you begin to build money, discipline, and options, your access changes. You no longer answer every call. You no longer explain every decision. You no longer sit in rooms where people trade excuses like currency. You no longer treat every request as an obligation. You begin protecting your time because you finally understand that time becomes skill, skill becomes proof, proof becomes money, and money becomes distance from control. Some people will call this arrogance. But often, what they call arrogance is simply the loss of their access to your weakness. This is where the unsupported man must become cold enough to see clearly. Not everyone wants you destroyed, but many people prefer you predictable. They prefer the version of you that can be interrupted. They prefer the version of you that has no urgent mission. They prefer the version of you that says yes, because saying no would create conflict. And poverty makes conflict expensive. When you are broke, you tolerate more than you should, because peace feels cheaper than confrontation. You accept disrespect because leaving has a cost. You stay in conversations, jobs, friendships, and environments that drain you because you think endurance is strength. But endurance without direction is not strength. It is slow surrender. Poverty can teach discipline if you convert it. Poverty can sharpen hunger if you use it. Poverty can make you dangerous if it forces you to study reality. But if you worship poverty, it becomes a cage with moral decoration. The payoff is this: do not confuse being needed with being respected. Some people do not respect you. They respect what they can extract from you. The old belief dies here. The old belief says, if I am useful, they will value me. The stronger belief says, if I am only useful, they will use me. A strategic man does not become cruel, he becomes selective. He gives from strength, not from guilt. He helps without becoming owned. He loves without becoming available to every demand. He builds enough distance to choose where his energy goes. And once you understand that, the next truth becomes impossible to ignore. Because if poverty makes you easier to command, and suffering does not protect you, and usefulness is not the same as respect, then what gives a man his first layer of real defense, not motivation? Truth 4. A small emergency fund is more powerful than a motivational speech. Motivation feels good. Cash absorbs impact. A motivational speech cannot pay a surprise bill. A motivational speech cannot cover rent during a slow month. A motivational speech cannot give you the strength to walk away from a disrespectful client. A motivational speech cannot buy you time to keep building. An emergency fund can. This is not glamorous. That is why weak men ignore it. Weak men want the symbol before the structure. They want the appearance of success before the foundation of survival. They want the upgraded lifestyle, the new phone, the expensive meal, the visible proof that they are no longer losing. But a strategic man does not build for applause first, he builds for oxygen. An emergency fund is oxygen. It is the quiet reserve that keeps pressure from becoming panic. It is the silent weapon that allows you to think when other men collapse. It is not there to make you feel rich. It is there to stop the world from turning every inconvenience into a crisis. How many men lose their future not because they lack ambition, but because they lack a buffer? They start building. Then a bill hits. They begin learning a skill. Then money pressure forces them into panic. They get their first client. Then they spend everything to feel successful. They begin escaping. Then one emergency drags them back into obedience. This is why the first goal is not luxury. The first goal is financial oxygen. A small emergency fund gives you room to stay calm. Calm gives you room to think. Thinking gives you room to choose. Choice gives you room to build. And once you can build without panic, you are no longer the same man. You are no longer asking life for perfect conditions. You are building your own conditions. The problem is not that your life has pressure. Pressure is guaranteed. The problem is entering pressure with no shield, no reserve, no margin, and no plan. That is how men become obedient. Not because they are weak in spirit, but because they are exposed in structure. A man with no buffer has to treat every problem like an emergency. A man with a buffer can treat problems like events. That difference changes everything. When you have no emergency fund, your nervous system becomes a servant. Every notification can become a threat. Every bill becomes a verdict. Every delay becomes humiliation. Every setback becomes a reason to betray your standards. But when you have even a small reserve, you begin to recover your posture. You answer slower, you negotiate cleaner, You stop over-explaining. You stop accepting disrespect just because you are afraid of losing the money. You stop treating every inconvenience like it has the authority to destroy you. This is why cash reserves create calm. And calm is not softness. Calm is command. The old belief says, I need motivation to change my life. The stronger belief says, I need enough oxygen to execute without panic. A motivational man depends on emotion. A strategic man depends on structure. Motivation rises and falls. Structure remains when your mood becomes useless. That is why the man who builds a small emergency fund is not being boring. He is building the first wall between his future and another man's control. But money sitting still is only the first wall. If your money never learns to move, then something else must keep moving in its place. And usually, that something is your body. Truth 5. If your money does not work, your body must. This is not motivational language. It is arithmetic. If you own no assets, no systems, no savings, no audience, no reputation, no business, no skill that scales, then your body becomes the machine. Your hours, your energy, your labor, your attention, your nervous system, that is what pays. And if your body is the machine but you neglect it, you are destroying your only production asset. You sleep badly, you eat badly, you move rarely, you scroll constantly, you spend emotionally. Then you wonder why you cannot build. A man with no capital must protect his energy like capital. Because until money, systems and assets begin working for you, your body is what gets sent into the field. This is why physical command and financial command are connected. The undisciplined body makes earning harder. The undisciplined wallet makes freedom harder. The undisciplined mind makes both unstable. You cannot build a serious life while treating your body like a rented tool. You cannot demand freedom from the world while sabotaging the instrument that must create it. You cannot talk about ambition while feeding yourself weakness, distraction, and exhaustion. This is where many men lie to themselves. They say, I will fix my body when I get money. No, your body is part of how you get money. Your energy determines your output. Your output creates proof. Your proof creates opportunity. Your opportunity creates income. Your income creates distance. So when you destroy your energy, you are not only hurting your health, you are taxing your future earning power. A man with no money must become dangerous in two places first, his skill and his discipline. Because if you cannot yet buy leverage, you must become leverage. You must become the man who wakes up before chaos can claim him. The man who trains before the day negotiates with his weakness. The man who learns after work when other men numb themselves. The man who protects his attention like it is currency, because it is. Attention becomes skill. Skill becomes proof. Proof becomes money. Money becomes options. Options become freedom. But if your attention is scattered, your future is scattered. If your body is weak, your execution is weak. If your discipline is fake, your plans are decoration. The payoff is simple. You must either build assets or remain the asset being consumed. Something will be used. Either you use your money to build systems or the system uses your body until it is tired. Either you use your skill to increase your price or someone else uses your labor at the lowest price you tolerate. Either you use your attention to build proof or platforms use your attention to sell you distraction. The old belief says, I am tired because life is hard. The stronger belief says, I am tired because I have not yet built enough leverage to stop trading my body for every result. This is not shame. This is diagnosis. And diagnosis gives you power because now you know the game. Your job is not to escape work. Your job is to make your work multiply. Your job is not to hate labor. Your job is to convert labor into skill, skill into proof, proof into money, and money into assets. That is the ladder. But there is a dangerous illusion on this ladder. Many unsupported men believe that once people see their pain, someone will finally help them. That is where they lose. Because the world does not fund pain. Truth 6. People do not fund pain. They fund proof. This is where most unsupported men lose. They think their story should move people. They think their struggle should attract help. They think being underestimated should make others invest in them. But the market does not fund wounds. It funds proof. Proof that you can create value. Proof that you can solve a problem. Proof that you can survive pressure. Proof that you can execute without being rescued. This is harsh, but it is liberating. Because if people funded pain, your future would depend on their mercy. But if people fund proof, your future depends on your evidence. That means you have something to build, a result, a sample, a sale, a case study, a message, a solved problem, a small win in a real market. Proof is the currency of the unknown. When no one knows your name, proof speaks before you do. When no one believes your vision, proof makes your vision harder to dismiss. When no one wants to support you, proof becomes the weapon that forces attention. Airbnb's founders are a perfect example. In 2008, Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia were in debt and struggling to get traction. They did not sit around waiting for institutions to rescue them. They did not demand sympathy because their idea was difficult. They did not use rejection as an excuse to disappear. They created limited edition cereal boxes called Obama O's and Captain McCain's and sold them to raise survival capital. The product was strange, the move was desperate, but it revealed something powerful. They could create, they could sell, they could turn pressure into action. They could manufacture proof when the normal door stayed closed. That cereal did more than bring in money. It became evidence of resourcefulness. It showed that they were not men waiting to be saved. They were men willing to invent a path where none existed. That is why the story matters. The lesson is not cereal. The lesson is that when no one funds the dream, you create proof that you refuse to die. Unsupported men must understand this deeply. The world will rarely reward you for explaining how hard your life is. But it may reward you when your hardship becomes evidence of execution. Do not say, "I am ambitious." Show the proof. Do not say, "I am disciplined." Show the proof. Do not say, "I deserve a chance." Show the proof. Do not say, "I have potential." Potential is invisible until pressure turns it into evidence. Now look at Kai Towers. He did not begin with investors, status, or a perfect life. He began from a dead-end situation with a small amount of capital and a marketplace. Around $400 became the starting weapon, not because $400 is enough to build an empire by itself, but because the first money is not supposed to impress the world. It is supposed to prove that you can move. He entered eBay reselling and treated the marketplace like a battlefield. Not everything, not random products, not emotional buying. Niche domination, that is the difference. A weak man sees a marketplace and says, "What can I sell quickly?" A strategic man asks, "Where is the overlooked demand? Where is the mispriced item? Where are lazy sellers leaving money on the table? Where can I understand the buyer better than my competition?" That is how small money becomes larger money. You do not scatter. You concentrate. You do not chase every shiny product. You study one corner until your eye becomes sharper than other people's attention. You learn what sells. You learn what photographs well. You learn what descriptions convert. You learn what buyers fear. You learn what creates trust. You learn what price leaves room for profit. You reinvest before you celebrate. And that is the part most men avoid. Reinvestment is where emotional men lose and strategic men separate. The first profit is a test. Will you buy status, or will you buy more leverage? Will you spend to feel successful, or will you compound the evidence? Kai Towers turning $400 into $317,000 through eBay reselling is not only a money story. It is a proof story. The marketplace did not care about his pain. It responded to value, attention, positioning, and reinvestment. The lesson is not eBay. The lesson is that a man with no support must become excellent at creating visible proof from invisible struggle. That is the battlefield. Pain hidden inside you gives you no bargaining power. Proof placed in the market gives you leverage. If you are broke, build proof. If you are ignored, build proof. If your family doubts you, build proof. If your friends laugh, build proof. If society does not care, build proof. Because proof changes the conversation. Before proof, you are asking people to believe. After proof, you are asking them to recognize what already exists. That is power. If you are serious about turning pain into evidence instead of entertainment, join the Patreon. You are already watching videos, taking in ideas, and hearing the truth. But if you keep consuming without a deeper system, you will stay emotionally charged and practically unchanged. Inside Patreon, I break down the unfiltered strategies behind leverage, self-command, money psychology, and power. If you continue collecting insight without executing, your life will become a library of unused weapons. The decision is yours. And this opens the final danger. Because even when an unsupported man finally creates proof and starts making money, he can still destroy himself. Not because he failed, but because he uses early money to heal old humiliation. Truth 7. Wealth begins when you stop buying status and start buying leverage. Status says, look at me. Leverage says, now I can move better. Status buys image. Leverage buys capability. Status impresses people who did not help you build. Leverage makes you harder to stop. This is where weak men sabotage themselves. They get their first money and immediately try to look like they have escaped. New clothes, new phone, new meals, new lifestyle, new performance. New performance, new proof for people whose opinions should not control them. But no buffer, no skill upgrade, no proof system, no better tools, no lead source, no asset, no leverage. They spend the first money to feel powerful, then return to being fragile. That is not success. That is emotional spending. A man who has been ignored for years often wants his money to announce his arrival. He wants the people who doubted him to see. He wants the family that misunderstood him to regret. He wants the friends who laughed to go silent. That hunger is understandable, but it is also dangerous. Because if your first money is used to impress people who did not build with you, they are still controlling you. They are not controlling your poverty anymore. They are controlling your spending. That is the trap. A broke man can be controlled by need. A newly paid man can be controlled by ego. Different leash, same master. This is why wealth begins when you stop buying status and start buying leverage. A strategic man treats early money differently. He asks, does this dollar buy survival? Does this dollar buy skill? Does this dollar buy proof? Does this dollar buy time? Does this dollar buy reach? Does this dollar buy speed? Does this dollar buy calm? Does this dollar buy options? If not, it may only be feeding ego. He does not refuse all comfort forever. He refuses comfort that weakens his position before his foundation is built. He does not hate nice things. He hates being owned by the need to display them. He does not reject pleasure. He rejects premature reward. Because premature reward is how men negotiate away their future for a temporary feeling. The world is full of men who look successful for a season and remain fragile for a lifetime. They had money, but no structure. They had income, but no reserve. They had style, but no leverage. They had applause, but no assets. They had motion, but no command. The payoff is this: money is not the goal. Money is the wall between your ambition and another man's control. You do not need money so you can worship money. You need money so your mission does not collapse under pressure. You need money so your body is not the only machine forever. You need money so you can say no. You need money so you can survive rejection. You need money so you can build long enough for skill to become proof and proof to become leverage. That is the identity shift. Stop seeing money as greed. Start seeing money as protection. Stop seeing savings as boring. Start seeing savings as oxygen. Stop seeing skill as optional. Start seeing skill as earning power. Stop seeing proof as decoration. Start seeing proof as bargaining power. Stop seeing assets as luxury. Start seeing assets as distance from desperation. Cash reserves create calm. Skills create earning power. Proof creates bargaining power. Assets create distance from desperation. And now you know the 7 truths. Truth 1. Money is not happiness. It is distance from obedience. Truth 2. Your boss respects replaceability, not suffering. Truth 3. Poverty exposes who only respected your usefulness. Truth 4. A small emergency fund is more powerful than a motivational speech. Truth 5. If your money does not work, your body must. Truth 6. People do not fund pain. They fund proof. Truth 7. Wealth begins when you stop buying status and start buying leverage. Now do not finish this with inspiration. Finish it with command. Calculate your survival number. Cut 1 status expense this week. Build a small emergency fund before you upgrade your lifestyle. Choose 1 monetizable skill. Create 1 piece of proof. Find 1 painful problem people already pay to solve. Turn your first money into oxygen, tools, proof, and leverage. Because if you have no money, you do not have freedom. You have permission disguised as independence. And if that sentence offends you, good. Offense is useless. Correction is power. Subscribe if you refuse to stay easy to control.